Okay, back from the break, what was I doing then? Essentially, when you're playing fill-ins and cymbals and doing different things like this, which is really, I'm talking about layering things and adding things melodically. I'll be getting to that in more detail in a minute. But what happens, generally speaking, when you're playing in a rock band context, you're usually adding a bass drum to the crash. Something like that anyway. And otherwise, the crash sounds empty. Okay, well, it's a bit different when we're playing a ride cymbal. Of course, that's different. I get into a bit of a drum and bassy thing there. Anyway, what can I say? So what happens is that when in a typical rock context, when you're hitting, when you're doing fill-ins and the like and all that, the general rule of thumb is whenever you hit a crash, hit the bass drum as well. All of that. A la metal. I'm hitting that one too much, actually. And, make sure you're hitting the bass drum with it. But did you notice that with the solo that I was playing, I was using my mallets and essentially not playing the bass drum with the hi-hat. So I was essentially, I'll just take the snares off again to show you this sort of technique. I could be playing a kind of a tom thing, right? And that's fine. As soon as I hit a cymbal, there's going to be a break in the tom-tom sound. I'll show you what I mean. I'll bring it back to just snare drum. This da 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 da, oh, 1 Eana, 2 Eana, 3 Eana, 4 Eana. It gives you that feeling, you see. It's empty, so to speak. This brings up an interesting conundrum that I was talking, having a bit of a chat with one of my students the other week. What happens is sometimes where we have to go what I've always called post-industrial. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, a post-industrial society is what's happening to us now, and it's already happening to so many it's already happened to so many countries where the manufacturing sort of goes offshore. There's a fundamental shift, sort of thing. Like the last Primus album, there's a song on it called "Everything's Made in China," that kind of thing. So all our manufacturing goes offshore, that kind of thing. It's post-industrial, all that. And that kind of economic term I've often referred to within drums as post-industrial drumming, where once upon a time the drum machine was meant to mimic the drummer. But now the drummer is often meant to mimic the drum machine, okay? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what often happens is that, of course, with a drum machine, you can have a drummer with 8 arms and 4 legs, if you want to. Sort of octo drummer. Sorry, James Bond popped into my head. Octopussy or whatever. So what happens is you might have, a fairly finicky producer or a finicky, doing a session somewhere. And you might find that they've programmed in a nice little 16th note hi-hat. they may have programmed in the snare drum on 2 and 4 and the typical bass drum. So at the end of the day, it's it's that kind of thing. But when you have a really close listen, when you've got the $1,000 microphone just pointed right there, what's happening is instead of getting this like that, you're really hearing that kind of feel there. It's broken. So what often happens is that you might put in a kind of a flam for this kind of thing if you're called on to do that. So if you want that continuous da 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 da, that kind of thing there, you might want to put in. So it's a flam, flat flam. See how that works? It's just that kind of thing, huh? My knee is my snare drum. If I didn't do that, therein lays the empty sound that I'm sort of talking about tonight. The opening solo of this segment, I had the typical drumming thing. Is every time I hit the hi-hat, okay, now it's empty. Now you'd maybe, typically you'd want to add a bass drum to that. Missed one. But sometimes, instead of putting that in, leave it out and you get a lovely little sort of a broken thing happening. You can, like if I did a 5, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, left. Put it on a cymbal. I'll put the bass drum in. Take it out. Nice little rhythms happening, many things that you can sort of work on. Paradiddles. Normally, say if I'm hitting a cymbal, I'd add the bass drum. So how about I do this? Which cymbal? I'll use this one. Like that. Put the right hand on the floor tom. Take out the bass drum. I'm off. Move it around. Bring the bass drum back in for dramatic effect. Hope you get something out of that. Long segment. More after the break.